Hello girls and squirrels, happy Friday and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about my top tips and tricks for thrifting like a pro, thrifting to resell, finding those good goodies. I have done a video like this in the past, but it was a few years ago and I kind of just wanted to update the list, also do a little refresh. So here is an updated tips and tricks for thrifting like a pro. Let's get into it. So the first tip I have is to know your market ahead of time. What platforms do you sell on? What styles are the most popular on those platforms? And if you have a more established brand presence or established closet, then what are your customers specifically looking for? You can find all of this out just by doing some simple research. I highly recommend just scrolling through Poshmark and Depop and seeing what's selling. Look on the tabs that those platforms provide, see what's trending on the For You page or the home page of those apps. And that'll really give you an idea of what you need to keep an eye out for those specific platforms. Tip number 2 is to think outside of the box, that is Goodwill. I highly recommend looking up thrift stores in your area and checking out some of the smaller thrift stores, maybe thrift stores that are owned by churches or just smaller chain thrift stores. These thrift stores tend to have a lot more vintage. They tend to have a really good selection of items and the prices also tend to be a lot lower. I don't know if you've been in a Goodwill lately, but Goodwill has absolutely lost their mind in my area. I've seen even some Dollar Tree items they've marked for $12, which is insane. I'm like, it literally has the Dollar Tree tag on it. I know where this came from and you're trying to trick me into paying $12? I don't think so. The prices are just insane. Definitely not conducive for sourcing. So think outside of the box. I have a few local thrift stores here that I simply found by happenstance or just a quick Google search. And it's a lot of trial and error. You know, sometimes you're going to go into a new thrift store and it's going to be a dud and you don't really find anything, but you can just move on to the next one. And that is how you find the gems, the holy grails, the honey holes. Tip number 3 is to go as often as possible. A lot of people ask, how do I find such good stuff? And it's because I go often. I try to at least go once a week, but a lot of times I end up going 2 or 3 times a week just to check. I'm not always in there for my full amount of time, a couple hours. Sometimes I just go in there to browse around, see what new items they've put out, and I'm in and out in 20 minutes. But I highly recommend at least doing 1 trip a week. Tip number 4 is to avoid the weekends and go midweek. I have found for me personally that Tuesdays seem to be a really good day to go. There's not a whole lot of people there. I go in the morning when they open and I'm pretty much the only one in the store. Also, you want to check to see if they have a color of the week, and it's also good to know when they turn that over. So for me and my thrift store, the reason I go on Tuesdays is not only because it's less crowded, I avoid the crowds of the weekends or senior day, but Tuesday is the day that the color of the week switches over. So say the color of the week previously was red, they'll switch it to blue on Tuesdays. So that means I get first pick of all the items that are now on sale. Tip number 5, I kind of already touched on, but it is to block off time. I at least block off an hour when I do my main sourcing trip. A lot of times I'm in there maybe 2, maybe 3 hours. I don't know. I really like to dedicate a lot of time because it gives me time to just really look and keep going around and making sure that I didn't miss anything. I feel like that is how I find a lot of good stuff because I am literally touching every item in that thrift store. I'm leaving no stone unturned. So definitely in your main sourcing trip, take the time to really comb through the whole store. And like I said, if you're just going in for your second trip of the week or your third trip of the week, just browsing through is totally fine, and you can find some new goodies that they've put out through the week. Tip number 6 is to check every single section. Yes, I mean every section. The lingerie section, the linens, the blankets, the curtains, the shoes, the art, all of it. Check every single inch of that store. Not only are there treasures to be found in every single section, but people just tend to like leave things where they land. People change their minds about things and they'll just throw it in a section where it doesn't even belong. So the possibilities are endless. You never know what you're gonna find. Tip number 7 is to go through the store multiple times. I already said that I do this. Even I, as a seasoned thrifter, a seasoned reseller, I've been doing this for a really long time. I miss things on the first go, or they'll put new stuff out, or like I said, people will take things out of their carts that they change their minds about. So I highly recommend going through the store multiple times. I do a first round of just really thoroughly going through stuff, and then as I'm going through the items in my cart and making my final decisions, I will wrap around. I'll do a wrap around. That TikTok sound has just been in my head. I'm gonna do a wraparound, and do a couple wraparounds because, like I said, you never know what you're gonna find. I always end up finding something that I either missed or someone put back, or the workers have just put out something new. Also, little side note is don't be afraid to do a little stalking. And by that, I mean, keep your eyes and your ears open. A lot of times the employees are out putting out new things. They're talking about the things they're about to put out, or, you know, you'll see someone and they'll put something in their cart and you got your eye on it and you're like, oh, I don't know. I hope they put that back, you know, and just kind of don't follow them. But like, just keep an eye on them, you know? Make sure they actually check out with that item. Because if you see it leave their cart, you better run, you know? You better get that item. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open. Tip number 8 is when it comes to name brands, do your research. And what I mean by that is, yes, definitely check the sold listings. I know a lot of people say to check the sold listings to see what the value, the current market is and the value of that item is. But a thing I think a lot of people don't talk about is that you need to be checking the current market for saturation. You need to be going on like Poshmark or Depop or eBay, wherever you're selling, and seeing how many of those items are listed. For me personally, if there's a ton of listings, they're at a lot of different price ranges, that tells me that the market is too oversaturated with that specific item, and I usually pass on those items. And I usually pass on those items because that means that that particular piece is gonna sit for a while. There's plenty of other options at different price ranges, and it's less likely that my item is going to stand out among the rest because it is the same item and there's so many options to choose from. And again, that's a lot more for name brand items like Free People, Lululemon, more modern day brands that, you know, you find in retail stores or, you know, could be at TJ Maxx or Marshall's, things like that. A lot of the times that's how the market gets oversaturated, is with items from like sales at Marshall's or TJ Maxx, and those end up being at the thrift store as well. I personally sell a lot of vintage pieces. It's very rare that I pick up brand name, and that's kind of why I sell vintage. I love vintage so much. One of the reasons I love vintage so much is because it is unique, and the chances of finding the exact piece again is slim to none. I know there are some mass-produced items, you know, that are vintage, but the market is a lot less saturated with that specific item, if that makes sense. So speaking of research, tip number 9 is a tool that I use all the time, and no, this is not sponsored in any way. They are not paying me to say this. It is just something that I use on a daily basis when it comes to my reselling business, and that is Google Lens. If you struggle with finding things by typing in keywords, or you're just having a hard time identifying a piece, this really comes in handy. You simply just go into the app, you take a picture of the item, and it will show you similar items on the internet. And a lot of times it will come up with that exact item, and it has really, really saved me so much time just doing manual research. I use this a lot to find the specific style name of brand name pieces, and I also use it a ton to find out more information about vintage items, specifically home goods. It's easier for me to figure out where a piece came from, the decade that it came from on fashion pieces, because a lot of the information is on the tag and I just know what to look for. But when it comes to hard goods or home decor, a lot of the time the sticker is gone, or it doesn't have a stamp on it, or it doesn't have a maker's mark. So Google Lens has really helped me out a lot when it comes to vintage home decor items. So tip number 10 is thinking outside of the box. Keep an open mind. There are so many items that can be transformed with just a simple coat of paint. I don't know about you guys, but I love upcycling. I don't do it a ton when it comes to selling. I definitely do it a lot when it comes to my own home decor, but there are some items that I have just simply put a coat of paint on, or changed the handles on, or just, changed up something about it. Even with fashion, I just got a sewing machine, so I've been doing a lot of reworking of those pieces, and I do that when I have a little bit of spare time and I think the piece is going to be worth it to upcycle. One super easy upcycle when it comes to fashion items is to just simply crop it. I've told you guys this a billion times. There are so many t-shirts I come across, or sweatshirts or whatever, that just simply cropping it makes the item so much better, makes the item so much more on trend and style, and makes it more likely to sell. So definitely keep an open mind. If you have the time and that's something you want to do with items that you sell, there are plenty of items out there that are an easy upcycle. Now, with that being said, our final tip number 11, is to be realistic. This is a lesson I had to learn the hard way. It just comes from years of experience, and I'm here to tell you now, do yourself a favor, be picky, be realistic with yourself. If you aren't crafty, or you simply just don't have the time to put into pieces, to fix them, or to upcycle them, then you might want to skip the project pieces. This also goes for items that are stained or they have a hole in them. They're gonna need some mending. I can't tell you how many times I've picked up pieces with stains or holes and I'm like, oh, I can fix that. Or, it's a quick, easy fix, no problem. And I'm here to tell you they have piled up, and that is how a death pile happens. So just be realistic with yourself. Know what you're actually going to do and what work you are willing to put into these items. And I promise your office will thank you later. Your future self will thank you, because you won't have a giant death pile that is just waiting to have a button sewn on or a stain removed or whatever. Some people love removing stains. They love mending clothes. And I 75% of the time am not that person, and I know that about myself. So I am very picky about the pieces that I do pick up that need mending or stain removal, because I just know myself. I know that, if a piece is only going to get me like 10, 15 bucks, I'm probably not going to put the work in. Just being real honest with you guys here in 2023. Alrighty, so that does it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully you gained some knowledge from it. Let me know down in the comments below what your tips and tricks are. I'm sure there are plenty out there, and I love to hear from you guys. So drop a comment down below and let me know your personal thrift tips and tricks. If you like this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up on your way out. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you're notified every time I upload, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.